For once, I can't tell if we're live yet because I don't have Twitch up.
It doesn't. It's give a second. We're live. There we go. Just waiting for the
There you go.
cue. We need to eventually create a big opening stream or beginning video so
Yeah,
that
we really got to do that.
someday we'll do that. Maybe I'll get to
One
that
of these
Wednesdays. Yeah.
days.
Well, we made it to the big time. But anyway, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Anime Bingeaholics episode. I am your host, Ranger J 1999, and my co-host is.
Katie Curio.
That's right, the artist
On a new
formerly.
setup,
Yep.
so don't mind me. Still
Mm,
getting used to it.
There you go. And we're here to talk about anime, speak about anime, love anime, make love to anime. I don't know, whatever's your kink. We don't kink shame
Yeah,
here.
no kink shaming here, peeps. No kink shaming.
But we review animes. Some are older, some are more recent. But today we were reviewing Be the Beginning. And for once, I'm letting Kitty Curio take over for this. So now I've completely got these mixed up with another anime, but I went back and
Yeah,
rewatched
he
it.
like
I,
derped
I
on it.
derped on it. I completely derped on it. I'm like, oh god, because as soon as you start watching the first episode, it's like, I did that with Blue Exorcist. I'm like, I know I've seen Blue Exorcist, but I could not remember. As soon as I started watching about 10, 15 minutes in the first episode, I'm like, oh,
You
for
were like,
Christ's sake.
oh,
I
now I
remember
remember.
everything that happens in this damn anime, but
Yeah.
I watch it anyway just to refresh myself. So, Be the Beginning. What is this all about there,
Um,
kitty kitty?
we will only be doing the first season since those of you who do follow it, the second season did
Just
just
came out.
drop a couple weeks ago. We're gonna let that settle before we followed up with the second season. So for now, we're just gonna do the first. Um, let's see. How do I want to start this?
What is Be the Beginning? What kind of anime is it? I'd say it's a thriller.
Yeah, I would go with a thriller too. Like honestly, I would go with it as it being a what he said. Oh,
Thriller.
thriller.
Road.
Right. So like a psychological thriller, science fiction, maybe suspense, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of mixes in a few things. I say thriller just in the sense that it is a
Every
detective.
time I say thriller, I have, thriller
No.
in my head. It's
um,
like,
it's a detective story. It's a thriller. It's a horror flick.
yeah, it's like all of the above kind of thing.
It's kind of yeah. It mixed in a
It's
lot
a
of
mixed bag and it's really cool.
yeah.
But it deals with a vigilante serial killer who is like brought into the city trying to find a certain person. And his calling card is that B symbol
Yep.
that you see,
Killer Bee.
Killer B. And you end up finding out later on that that symbol is actually something completely
Of
different.
significance. We won't break down what it is. You have
Yeah.
to go and watch it.
But it brings in this detective who went into retirement after his sister was murdered.
Oh yes.
Well, he didn't really go into retirement, but that's a different story. Um, he
He
comes back
flick. Oh.
into play because he wants to find this serial killer vigilante.
And you know what? And you find out later on too why.
You find out why. And it turns out that it's all connected.
Everything is connected. Very, very well.
It really is. It's like everything is connected and it's freaking phenomenal. I absolutely love it. But it has a lot to do with like a different species of people kind of thing. It's oh God,
It's got a lot of elements to it. This show is it's one of those it's got a certain government espionage kind of, the government doing stuff it shouldn't be doing. It's got that it's that psychological
yes,
part with Hannibal the Hannibal from Songs of the Lambs kind of vibes with certain
yeah,
parts of it. It's
yeah.
got sci-fi. It's got great action. Everything about this, even though it's not real, the place that it takes place is not real. But the evolution of the story and the characters, and I
It
gotta
kind of gives you that feeling that like in the future there could be that possibility because
it
there
could
are
be
things in the world that could
sure.
still be found. And with people when they're cloning and their DNAs and blah 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 testing and everything. Let's not get into the science of it yet because that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Um, it could be something that could come into fruition later on, and
Now the main character,
hundreds of
yeah,
years.
the main character, the main there's a lot of antagonists and protagonists in this.
There's a lot of
There's
antagonists in
there's
this.
two stories happening at the same time, which I really liked about this anime.
Yeah.
It's two
The main
separate
ones
threads, but
are
they're connected.
Koku,
Goku and Keith.
Koku. Make
Koku
sure you,
and
yeah, it's
yeah,
Koku.
not
Because
Goku.
it sounds a lot like Goku if you're not careful.
And Keith Flick. Now
Yeah.
they are intermittently tied together, but their stories are separate, and all this culminates into one big thing. It's all
Well, their stories
connected,
are
but they're
separate and
separate,
yet
and
they're connected.
yeah, it's like and they do a good job of this. It's the what they're looking for is two separate end results, but it's for the overall end result where they're trying to get their own justice for what they're trying to accomplish differently. But it does tie them in together, and it ties it in together beautifully.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
really like the way that this ended. It was really well done and executed. I mean, um, it's very fast paced. I mean, the first episode is very fast paced right from the beginning. There's a lot of other characters that are really fun. Lily is a
Love
fantastic
Lily.
character. She is a younger, more goofier version of Keith.
There's the one from the second episode that he fights against Izanami.
Yeah, Izanami.
I like Izanami as a character. I really wish Izanami was in more episodes because I
Yeah.
would have really liked to seen more interaction with Izanami.
What else? So there's the team. It's the RPD Royal some or RIPD.
RIS.
RIS. I couldn't remember. There's too many
Yeah.
R and P's rolling around in this world. I could not keep track of all
really
of it.
are. They
Um,
really are.
and I'll wear jackets say RP and then RPI or
Yeah,
it's just
it's
silly.
RI something like the
Yeah,
Royal
Institute
something.
of Science or something like that,
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Royal Institute. I don't know what it. It's not
Something.
important. But there are specialized branch that deal with special cases. Keith is brought back because, and you'll learn why he had his motivations for why he was coming back. Now, the other
Hmm.
members of the team, Eric, his protege that helps bring him back, is a very important character. Boris is the old timer that's been with Keith and everybody for a long time. He has an important role. Kayla is a really fantastic character.
Kayla, that's how you pronounce it. I always forget how to pronounce it when I see the word written. I'm like,
Yeah, Kayla was um, an invaluable. She was. They all
she
have these
is a
niches.
freaking brilliant
Yeah,
hacker.
yeah.
Like,
She had the whole setup too. I mean, she had the foot pads, the double keyboards, the whole
like
thing. Man, it was pretty cool.
everything. Like, take Penelope from freaking Criminal Minds and multiply her by like 4.
Yeah, Bran. Or they kept saying Bran, but it was Brian. I don't know why they kept saying
Yeah,
Bran
I
in
don't
the
know
end.
why
They
either.
just kept saying Bran. Is Bran okay? I'm like, no, it's. And I guess it's the way the Japanese were pronouncing it, the actors and
Yeah,
stuff. But it's his actual name is. I mean, his Brian Brandon, but I don't know if they went with Brand because they're used to saying last names. I don't know why they did that, but they kept saying Bran a lot.
yeah.
Now, the antagonist Gilbert Ross, becomes an important member of this in a way that you don't really see coming. And then the other
Like,
characters,
in my opinion, you always have this feeling, or at least I did when I first saw it, that there was something. There was just something there
I
with
didn't have
Gilbert.
I didn't have a feeling of something. I felt like because you start learning bits and pieces about who their relationship, him and Keith, and you learn the final what their true relationship is.
Yeah.
But
See, no, I
I
always
didn't
had
get a
that
bad
feeling.
vibe off him. I got him like he's like one of those people that smart as he is, but he's a doctor, he's a detective. They're just friends. They have this they've known each other for a long time kind of relationship, so they just
Yeah.
know each other. I didn't really start getting vibes off of the relationship until about episode 7 or 8. I think is when
Yeah.
they start doing some
That's also
flash
when things started,
really kicking off.
Yeah. But no, I even from the beginning, I always had that really weird feeling with Gilbert that I'm like,
I did
you
not.
look a
It
little.
was they did a
See,
good
to
job of
me, it was
hiding
the
that.
way to me he looked a little too perfect.
Okay, a little too
Yeah, I don't
perfect.
know, why, but in animes like this, I always never trust the ones that look too freaking perfect.
God, Getting some Eisen vibes is what you're saying.
It does. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. But if you come off too freaking perfect, and you just nay nay, no,
Who's the other? Minazuki is another main.
Minatsky.
Yeah, I always said Minazuki, but oh well.
Yeah,
Uh,
Minatsky's the other bad guy.
Lacia. Of course, Yuna is another main character. You'll
Yeah,
learn her and what really happens. And
and why she's so
okay,
important.
so what we're going to do here, because I actually want to talk about this anime a little bit. If you don't want to hear spoilers, we'll give our overall grade here first, right? And then we're going to
Yeah,
go into spoilers,
and then we're gonna go into
and
spoiler
also I'll
alert.
start shaking my hands and stuff like that, and we'll do that for the rest of
Yeah,
the episode. So I want to finish season two. It's an A anime for me right now. It's I don't know between an 8.5 and a 9. I really like this a lot. I have to watch season two to see where I'm going to finally rate this.
yes,
If season two was anything like season one, I may start putting this in the S category. This is a phenomenally well written, well designed, very action oriented. The fight scenes are phenomenally done in this.
and it
Really
gets you
good.
thinking.
It's a very thinking one.
And I love that. It gets your brain working, and I love that about this anime.
Yeah, you start
That's
asking.
actually one of my favorite
Yeah,
aspects about this whole anime.
you start asking a lot of why is this, why is that. Well, you know, and I've started putting a lot of it together quickly, but I still had
Yeah.
a few surprises that I'm not going to reveal yet. We'll get into the spoilers here in a second. But what would you give this, Kitty?
I hardcore give this an 8.5 because I have to finish season 2 to see where my final ranking is. But right now it is a solid 8.5, gradually going up to that 9. And it's definitely an A ranking for me. Like, I absolutely love this anime, and I definitely oof,
Yeah,
definitely see a lot of like things that can go awesomely with this anime.
yeah,
Just like I did with Jujutsu Kaisen.
yeah.
I told
I
I
like
told
Jujutsu
you would
Kaisen.
end up putting that in your top 20.
Yeah, it's going to be in my top 20, and because the second season, I've seen enough of it. We're almost through the second season, and I'm just like, okay, this is really a phenomenally good anime. So it was automatically an A because I really liked the first
Oh yeah.
episodes.
Oh yeah.
But as it is built up, I mean, we talked about when we talked about Jujutsu Kaisen. I mean, this
Yeah.
second season has been funny as hell. But we're not here to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
Maybe
No,
we'll do
this is be the beginning. But yeah,
we'll do
no, this one's definitely actually I want to give this like an 8.7, maybe an 8.8,
getting closer to that
almost that
9.
9.
There
Yeah.
you go. All right,
Because
so
I
okay.
really enjoy this
Okay,
anime.
we're gonna
Like
do
I really
spoilers now. I'm doing the spoiler thing. Spoilers,
spoilers,
spoilers. We're
spoilers,
doing the Kermit the
spoilers.
Frog hand.
Wee-woo,
Oh,
look, I got the blue
spoilers!
squishies.
Don't
Wee-woo.
you? For the rest of this anime, we're going to talk about spoilers. So if you just want to go watch it and then come back and see what we say, then do that. But spoiler time. Don't watch this. It's spoilers. So
Don't listen to this.
all right, we're gonna start
Spoilers.
spoiler talk in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here we go. All right, so let's get into the spoilers of this, and we're gonna start doing this
Yes.
for most of the animes. Is the first part will just be our general thoughts. We'll give it a rating, and then we're gonna get into spoilers. I think it's a better format for us because we've held back on some of the stuff here, but I think moving forward for these animes, we're gonna
I
start.
do have a solid question for you though.
What's that?
How did Gilbert become the head of the market makers and held the influence he had for as long as he did?
Well,
Like, was it because he like simply
he
brainwashed
never.
Minatsky, or like
Yeah, but that's the definition that they gave. So he said that he was able to influence him as a child, and he said the impact psychologically of just even a child. If you say something and it has even a little bit of credibility, they're gullible, especially in the
yeah,
circumstances that he was in. So he was able to put that in his mind about all the things that he wanted him to believe, and so he believed it hook, line, and sinker because it kind of. And then they don't really show the relationship afterwards, but it was a working relationship between the two. Now, as we're going to discuss, the two main villains in this is Gilbert Ross, the doctor, who is a brother of Keith Flick, who
yeah,
is also they grew up together, they went to school together, they had an adopted sister. We talked about Keith Flick's sister being murdered. The person that murdered her is, of
yeah.
course, Gilbert, and Gilbert
Gilbert.
is a psychopath on the utmost level. He
Yeah.
is
Whew, he puts it on a whole new
multiple
level.
personality disorder. He has all the narcissism. I mean, extreme narcissism.
Yeah.
So
Like he
he,
definitely was able to compartmentalize like each and every one of those murders he committed,
yeah,
which
Gil.
was well into the hundreds.
And what was fascinating is because for what he was doing and for the government, they were ignoring everything that he was doing because he was associated with Minotsky and the what was the name of the organization? The
Market makers.
market makers. So what you have to go back to this. What set all this off? Okay, so in this country, 3 or 400 years ago, they found these ruins, and inside these ruins, they found the bodies of two beings, um, both
Winged
humanoid,
creatures.
winged creatures, human skeletons, but with wings, right? A
Hmm.
white skeleton and a black skeleton, and with all these glyphs and stuff off of there. So the government publicly said we're going to invest, let's raise money so we can publicly figure out all this stuff and research this and do all this stuff. Privately, as all governments are tempted to do, their main purpose is how can we turn this shit into a weapon, and that was their nefarious goal. You hear it all the time. Now Keith's father, um, because he's half brother to Gilbert, he was actually the guy that in the recent times, as we move forward in time, he was running the institute. What they were doing was
Dr.
genetically,
Kazama.
yeah, they were genetically altering children, to become weapons. They all had special
Yeah. They
abilities.
were doing this while I think they were in utero, actually. So
Yeah,
that way they could come out
yeah,
fully formed and, fused with this genetically altered DNA.
right. To make weapons. The problem is though that they do that it was not working as
They would end
these.
up having a short lifespan, and
Right.
those were called Reggies.
Reggies.
Yeah.
Now, in the Reggies, the problem is that they would go on murder streaks. Now, Gilbert's working with Minotsky, who's a kid that he finds. They go through and they wipe out the lab, kill Keith's father. So that starts the whole thing off with Minotsky's and his relationship. That ties in back in later. Now, Gilbert father was one of the ones that was also part of this in funding it and all that stuff, and
For the
was
weapons.
for the weapons, and he was friends with Keith's father and all this stuff. It's just crazy connections, but he ends up killing his father. That's his actual first murder victim. I think he killed over 80 people by just cutting them up and then putting them back together.
That's like the ones they know of that were encased
There
in the
was
blue
80.
glass.
Yeah,
But then you got that one room where there's like, a crap ton more. So there's
right.
like literally over 100 bodies that they know of.
And so Gilbert kills the adopted sister, which really puts Keith in a tailspin.
Quite a predicament.
He does have his journal, and what you don't know in the beginning is he's already done the research. He spent the last 8 years researching, finding all the facts, digging in because he's a brilliant. He's one of those divine minds that can see stuff that nobody else can see in
He's a
patterns.
guinea,
They call him the Gani, the genius.
the genus. Yeah.
Uh,
He's one of
he's
those
like
that
the
literally figures out what your next move is before you even know what your
right,
next
and
move
you
is.
see that he comes back. He totally he is not a conformist in any sense of the word. He does what he thinks is best, and you'll see that throughout the series. Now
He is awesome.
he is very awesome. Now Lily, who is we'll get to, she is the younger version of him, except she doesn't. She has other idiosyncrasies that he does not have. They're totally opposites, but they're the
Opposite,
same.
but they sync up so perfectly.
Hmm. So we move back. So the murder happens. Keith is destroyed. We get back 8 years later. What sets all this off? Well, the Reggies are out now committing murders. There's been murders happening in here. That's why this organization exists. But what's happening now is that the serial killers are being killed by this other serial killer, who they think is a serial killer, who calls himself B, and they call him Killer
The
B.
the murders were actually taking place so the Minotsky could actually flush out the killer B,
Yes.
because
And he's doing
And
the same, and he's playing because he wants to flush them out as
yeah,
well.
he's playing along because he wants to flush them out as well because he's also searching for somebody that they have.
Yeah. Now,
It turns out though later on that um they believe Koku, which is the killer bee, the vigilante serial killer person, is their king, their black winged
he
king.
is their king. And so
Yeah.
because they talk about that in the series that they fucked up and you know the
He's more powerful than they thought they believed him
they
to be, and yeah,
he's the reincarnation of the king, and the girl that he's looking for, who was very close to
yeah,
at the institute, Yuna, is the white figure angelic form, his opposite that keeps him there's a
stable.
stable and keeps them connected. Now they start investigating these killer bees, but then the market group starts making their move, and what they're doing is at the same time is that they're doing stuff to lure Killer Bee out because they're trying to get him to capture him so they can for the government to do whatever they're going to do, his DNA, whatever they're trying to do. Um, he
Trying to
also
brainwash him, turn him into a weapon.
right, and it's what they do is they use these Reggies as
Oh, that's what it was. They also believed that he would be able to give the Reggies a longer lifespan than their 7 years.
right. Because they have to live off gold, which is crazy.
Yeah,
That's
which is
mixture
really
of
weird because they're born, and then once they hit their maturity level, which is like what